Hello, I'm Alec Hansen, a technical advisor with FHI 360 based in Tunisia. In 2017, we took a risk using a cluster approach on a project where the conventional wisdom said you can't do it that way. We had just been awarded an 18-month, $800,000 project in northwest Tunisia to help handicraft producers to raise their incomes and to export. People who had worked in this sector for years basically said clusters are really hard in Tunisia anyway, but especially in a rural area working with less educated women, it's just not going to work. The results have exceeded our expectations. The women's cooperatives that we're working with have gotten certified, they've begun exporting, they're online, and they have more confidence in their abilities. We think it succeeded for two main reasons. It was evidence-based, and at every step of the way, we figured out how to be genuinely inclusive. And that set up a positive cycle of mutual confidence and trust, which is absolutely key. Our evidence base came from an in-depth analysis that we had just completed for the World Bank of the essential oils value chain. So when we saw the tender for a handicraft project, we realized that we had a good understanding of the constraints to growth. We not only had the numbers, but based on lots of interviews and focus groups, we had the story behind the numbers. Almost all of the essential oils come from wild plants collected by local women from state-owned forests. Most of these women were being exploited by large companies that acted like a cartel and paid them below minimum wages. But sprinkled throughout the region, there were about a dozen women's cooperatives that were collecting plants and producing their own oils that were actually higher in quality than the big commercial producers. But they were small and they struggled because they didn't have access to markets, access to credit, and most importantly, they lacked confidence, so they were unwilling to take risks. So we formed a cluster working group where 8 or 9 of those cooperatives, as well as several other stakeholders, about 40 to 50 people in all, met every 2 to 3 months and jointly carved out an agenda for how to improve their lives. And they found that by working together, they were able to achieve so much more. But over time, they took over all the key functions and the key decisions. What markets shall we be studying? What kind of new packaging do we need? As you can see behind me, the new packaging is one of the things that they're most proud of because they've really been able to sell their products much more effectively with this. Those are just a few of the examples of what they've accomplished. As you can see, our team consisted mainly of women, but this wasn't enough to overcome the trust issue. These cooperatives didn't trust the government at all, and their experience with other donors who seemed to come and go sporadically didn't make them want to trust us in the beginning either. We finally realized that we needed to spend quality time with them, getting up at 5 in the morning and hiking up and down the mountain for 6 hours in the hot sun while they collected wild plants for distillation. After that experience, they decided that we really cared about them, and they were far more open about sharing information. The trust among the members of the cluster is essential, and we can really think of that as their social capital. We conducted a social network analysis and found that our proxies for social capital jumped from 2018 to 2020, 250% for one of them and 150% for the other. So clearly something had happened in terms of their networks expanding, but also their trust among. And we're excited about this project because here we have a region in conflict with a poor history of collaboration, working with relatively poorly educated women, and the cluster is being institutionalized and will clearly outlast our intervention. I will never forget my conversation with one of the cooperative members. I had asked her, what difference has this made in your life? Are there things that you can buy that you couldn't buy before? And she said, oh, buying. The most important thing to me is that he can no longer control when I come and go. And with that, I realized this has had a much broader and deeper social impact on their lives than I had even imagined. Seeing their confidence, their sense of ownership, what they've accomplished, helps me to understand that this really has been a sustainable activity and that the cluster approach really was the right one in this situation. Thank you.